It's the weekly on Blue Room, and well, if you've been sick of talking about new owners, 777, and all sorts of different other numbers, uh, the one thing I want to talk about first is we've still only got 1 point in the Premier League. Looks like we've got 1-1-1 in the Premier League for the first time, lads. I've got Warren and Dan with me now to go through basically what firstly happened against Arsenal and a really dreadful performance, and then we'll go on and talk about what's going on with the other stuff in the club and potentially a new owner, potentially the stadium might work, the new one will get, I don't know. Anyway, come to you first, Dan. I mean, there's not any positive to talk about really against Arsenal, is there? And I know all week actually the pair of you two been really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on what happened on Sunday, because it was absolutely dreadful and very, very concerning.
The weird thing is, there's a bit of a... I mean, we know at the moment that Everton Twitter is divided, divisive, pretty grim. Battle lines have been drawn. People were taking their sides. But I've listened to 4 different podcasts since the Arsenal game. I'm cheating on you. I'm cheating on you. I'm playing the field, Dave. And I've listened to... One of them was the subs, and every single one of them has people on it I admire, respect, know, like, etc. And they've all said the same thing, that it was disheartening, it was deflating, it was toothless, it was devoid of any real rudder or plan or desire or competent technical ability. And everybody said the same thing. And then you go on Twitter, and this is why I've withdrawn from Everton Twitter for a while, because the engagement with certain aspects of Everton Twitter have worn me out. They've depressed me. They've made me feel anxious and worried. And, I'm setting up a business at the moment, and I've got a teenage son. I don't need any more shit, quite frankly. But you look on the other aspect of Everton Twitter. So you've got all these people saying the same thing, which is, we look like Burnley that got relegated 2 seasons ago, which isn't a surprise. We've built a team for him. We've got the wingers. We bypassed the midfield. And we've got a big lump up front. That's Burnley, right?
Yeah.
We also have loads of their old players. And one of his old mates is a grass. But the reality is, everybody saw the same thing that day. But then you go on another side of Everton Twitter, the kind of numbers, data, stats Twitter, and they're all kind of looking at the fans losing their heads going, well, can't they see what he's trying to do? I could see what he was trying to do. He's clearly trying to do this. There's clearly a plan. There's clearly this. He's clearly tried to do this for the team. He's clearly trying to do this. And there's this, and as much as I've tried to understand that side of it, and as much as I want to kind of go, okay, let me, what is he? Is he trying to do this? Is he trying to do that? The more you watch him, and I know there's the XG thing, and I know if we'd had a striker and all the ifs, buts, maybes, and missed it megs that you can continue to go on about the previous games. But whenever I watch us play, and whenever I have watched us play under him, and let's be honest, the Brighton game was an anomaly, just like the Crystal Palace game was Lampard's anomaly. Yeah. Let's not pretend that was how we were going to play. Let's not kid ourselves that was how Dyche wants us to play, right? Let's forget that, because that's rubbish. When you watch us play, whether it was trying to survive last season, and we went 7-8 games without a win, by the way, under him. We scraped by the skin of our teeth. He's not the miracle worker people say he is. Believe me, a better coach gets us safe with a month to go there. And I really believe that. I genuinely believe that. When you watch how we play with him, all I ever see is one way or no way.
Yeah.
And he seems to have this thing where it's like, I know how I want us to play, and there is one way of doing it. If that doesn't work, he is lost. And unfortunately, the way he wants to play takes some very technically gifted, young, exciting players and ignores them.
Yeah.
Because James Garner, regardless of the person who said he couldn't play in a Brighton team under Graham Potter, and that's a load of crap as well. But the reality is, James Garner is a technically gifted footballer who can pick a pass, who has played at under 21 level under Lee Carsley, who trusted him implicitly. and he's being ignored. Amadou Onana is a good player. He is a number 6. And in a better team, he will flourish. Believe me, he will. But he's being ignored. And we have a team that all it seems to do and all he seems to want us to do is ping it down the channels, bypass the midfield, go to one of his 57 left wingers that we've got now and lump it into a big fella. And once that doesn't work, we don't know what to do. And we don't pass the ball well enough. And that's coaching. We can say the players are crap all day long, and maybe they are underperforming, but there's a goal going around on Twitter right now of a team in non-league stringing 37 passes together and scoring a goal. And that's coaching, man. That is coaching.
Yeah.
That's not technically gifted footballers. Lewis Dunk, Solly March, Pascal Gross. Would you have any Everton fan have been screaming to sign them 5 years ago, 4 years ago? No. But they play to a style that has been laid, a foundation has been laid in the coaching philosophy of that football club. De Zerbi is currently reaping the benefits of the foundations laid by Graham Potter. He's the stardust. De Zerbi is the sprinkling. He is the hundreds and thousands. And he is benefiting from this team that has been taught to play in a way and has taken very, very underwhelming footballers and taught them to play that way. And when you watch us, you really do question, is the only thing this man relies on fitness? Is that it? Is that all we rely on? Being the fittest team
even with that, though, Dan, even with the fitness, I don't think that's that great either. Want to get your thoughts on this there. There's a lot for us to go through with this. First thing I've seen a lot more and continue to see when we don't win, which has been sadly 5 months now. But we're in a situation like this with many people saying, well, it's time to get rid of him. And I think the first thing most people will think to that, if they don't agree with someone who says that, is, no, we can't, because we just do that all the time and it never works. What some of the things Dan said there about this fitness thing that it seems to obsess over. You look at what happened at Burnley when he left, effectively relegated them, or almost relegated them when he left it. And then when Vincent Kompany's gone in, they look fantastic when they play, by the way. And the indictment of all this is I was watching Burnley away at Forest, hoping that they didn't win, or at least it was a draw. And that's the stage we're at. 5 games in? What's your take on all this, mate?
I'm listening to Dan there, and there's a lot of things that Dan said that I agree with. First of all, after the game Sunday, my immediate reaction was I was absolutely disgusted with Dyche. I was disgusted with him. There didn't seem to be any plan. The plan that there seemed to be is effectively how Dan has described what he saw and what he feels Dyche as a manager is, and I thought it was disgraceful. And I don't think I agree with Dan that I don't think we haven't at least developed it yet, a plan B. I was really looking forward to, I was listening to post-match, by the way, with yourselves on after the game on Sunday, and one thing that really stuck out for me, and forgive me, I can't remember who said it, but they said about the subs. The subs were like for like. When it wasn't working, the subs were just like for like changes. It wasn't anything, can we try this different? Can we maybe make Arteta question something now? Why have Everton made that change? It wasn't. It was just like for like. I was really looking forward to seeing Dom and Beto as a front pairing, because I thought at least that offers, if we are going to play the way we are playing, it is going to offer us something having them two up front. And Dom, to his credit, I know his injury record not being great, but to his credit, he's always performed really well against Arsenal. And until he went off in the game last season, in Dyche's first game when we won, they couldn't cope with him. They couldn't cope with Dom. And I just thought, give them something to think about by having them two up front. Beto looked so isolated. I felt so sorry for him, because I think we can get the best out of him when we get support around him. And I thought Dom would have provided a great foil for that. Now, whether Dom's at that level of fitness yet where we can demand these things off him, who knows? But that was one of the big things for me Sunday. yes, the performance was dreadful, but how many times in the last 7 years have we said the players didn't look like they wanted? There was no fight, there was no desire. He's not the first manager, and if he was to leave tomorrow, he wouldn't be the last manager where we see a performance where there's no effort, no desire, nothing. So I don't necessarily blame everything like that on Dyche, because these players have shown in the past that they will, when the going gets tough, their mentality is shot to pieces. They're at a club that's in crisis, they will fall down, and there's nothing really, there's no substance there. And we've seen that many a time. So I can't fundamentally pinpoint that on Dyche.
But would you change him? I think that's the bigger question.
That's what you're after.
You lads, would you get rid of him?
Do you know what? I think I got interviewed last. Sorry to big myself up, but I got interviewed by a journalist. I got interviewed by, it was Ollie Kay actually for The Athletic. He asked me and he said to me, I know, yeah.
Oh, mate, I thought you were exclusive to me on the BBC. What's going on here?
Sorry, yeah, go on. Go on. I'm just letting me pick up that name I've dropped off. Yeah, no, he asked me a really good question, actually. He said to me, do you think Dyche is the answer? And this was quite early on, and I said, I said it was a little bit of huff and puff when I said this, because I didn't obviously mean it, but I said if he keeps us up, he's manager of the year, because we were in such dire straits when he first came in. I think we were dead and buried. But I also looked into that more, and I said, how many other clubs do you know where a 3-time European or Champions League winning manager, how many clubs would have Sean Dyche as their manager 18 months later after you've had that manager? And then we got talking about, I linked it to other clubs, and we referenced Brighton there, and we said, and Dan made a great point about De Zerbi and Potter. If you throw De Zerbi into the Everton team, if say we had the managerial swap now with Brighton, De Zerbi does not get with Everton what he's got at Brighton.
But does he get better than Dyche though? Because that's the thing that many people have said when someone says, "Oh, I don't want Sean Dyche as manager."
I don't think
First thing people have said is go and get Graham Potter because he's out there and he's not at a football club. But that is still, would he get any better than Dyche does again with these lot?
And I'm not for one second saying Lampard is on the same level as a De Zerbi or one of these like a Potter. I'm not saying that. But that's what we look for in Lampard. We looked for a change of style. We looked for something different from Benitez. We in the early days of Lampard, we embraced that different style, that more freedom. When we went under Benitez, we felt the shackles were firmly on. What my point is I think Everton have got to this deep, dark, fundamentally critical stage in our footballing historical period now. It doesn't matter who manages us. There's no long-term, or if there is, it's certainly not happened yet. There's no long-term plan. There's no identity to Everton. There's no, this is what it's going to be. And unfortunately, when you're in a relegation scrap year after year, you can't make them plans 6-12 months down the line. The beauty of what Brighton have got is if De Zerbi leaves tomorrow, they've probably already got their next.
Oh, they know, yeah, they know the next
change, isn't it? Yeah.
It doesn't change because that new manager, if De Zerbi leaves tomorrow, and Brentford are similar in my book as well. They will go in tomorrow. They will work exactly under what the culture of that football club is, and they will reap the rewards. We haven't got that, and we haven't had that for a long time. And we can go in, Dave, to a number of reasons. We could be here all night. We could probably make a 5-show special about the culture of Everton Football Club at the minute. It doesn't matter who's in charge. So to answer your question in a roundabout, long-winded way, it doesn't really, to me, matter anymore. It could get to the point in 6 games and he still hasn't won, and we get rid of him and we get Potter in. And we might see a different style and we might see something. But until this football club is stable again, like it was under Moyes. I've got a big West Ham mate at work, and we were talking the other day about the interview Moyes. Have you seen the interview Moyes done recently with Richard Keys, where he said he was basically Everton manager? Ancelotti got sacked, and the next thing Ancelotti's manager. At the time, I was dead against that. I was dead against Moyes coming back to Everton. And I look at it now, and I would kill for a David Moyes team now that's stable, that, yes, all right, has its deficiencies and has its drawbacks. But I tell you what, that team that we had under Moyes, from what we are witnessing now as fans, God, that team was superb compared to what we're seeing now. But at least Moyes' team, for whatever the flaws he has, for whatever the criticisms Moyes got in his spell, particularly in the latter years, there was an identity.
Yeah.
There was a culture of the football club. There was, if we sell this player, we're going to bring this player in. If this happens tomorrow, this is what we do next. And since then, we've not had that. The scattergun approach to transfers, the financial peril that we're in. Dave, to me, it doesn't matter who's manager. Until we resolve the long-term issues, nothing's going to change. And we've just got to hope that whoever the manager is, whether it's Dyche, whether it's Potter, whoever it is, have got to get us to a point where we get 36, 37 points. Yeah. That's where we are at the minute. And that is a horrifying indictment of the state of Everton Football Club. Someone put on Twitter the other day, and I saw it, I don't know if you've seen this, is this your lowest feeling or lowest point as an Everton fan? We've had many lows before.
Yeah.
We've had many times where it's been worrying, where we've been angry, where we've been upset, where the fan base has been fractured and we've been against each other, and it's a bit of a civil war between the fans. For me now, we almost have to hit that rock bottom to start again. And for me, we're very close to that. Very close.
But that rock bottom, and we'll get onto this in a bit, that rock bottom is, well, effectively what you're saying is going down, isn't it? That's as low as it gets, is us getting relegated. Now, you do get people saying this thing, and I think you've just, not to put words in your mouth, that is something that you say we have to go down to get back up. I can see why people say that theory, because clubs have done that in the past. You look at Aston Villa, who are a really solid side right now. They look like they're battling for potentially the top four this season. They've been down in the doldrums then and come back up. And
Leicester are flying now. Leicester look like they're flying now as well. Look like they'll come straight back up. Yeah.
Before what's happened to Leeds, that happened too. I mean, they went down to League One, didn't they, at the time?
Yeah.
The issue for me, and I think many other people, I mean, it's like a sliding doors type of moment, isn't it? If that happened, because we've seen people say that before, it'll be the best thing to happen if Everton went down. People have referred to it that way, even back when under Howard's third session, and even Moyes in his first couple of seasons, we were down there, relegation battles and things. Maybe you need to go down to come back up. The problem I have with that, and we'll find this out, won't we, potentially, when we have new owners coming in. Could you possibly trust Everton to come back up? Because
sorry to interrupt, Dave. I don't subscribe to that theory either. A few people have said to me who are non-Everton fans, you almost need to go down really to reset, don't you? Yeah. Everton don't reset. Everton will be Sunderland if we go down.
Yeah. Everton don't come up if they go back, if they go down.
Everton don't bounce straight back up. Everton are effectively Sunderland, where, and you mentioned Leeds, but remember it took Leeds 16 years. That'll be us. Yeah. We won't be back it won't be straight back.
The thing is, the championship now, Dyche wouldn't get a job in the championship now, because the championship now is full of young, progressive, hungry managers that are doing.
Yeah.
Look at Preston North End. Look at Ipswich Town.
Yeah, really right? Really good friend of mine at Preston, Ryan Lowe. He's getting them up. It looks like that's how good he looks.
Yeah. Schumacher's having a bit of a tough time with Plymouth, but I mean they stormed League One with Ipswich. But Kieran McKenna at Ipswich, I'm there on Tuesday night. I'm going to watch them versus Wolves in the Cup. But Dyche wouldn't survive down there, because that is a breeding ground for young, exciting managers. The likes of Warnock and Pulis and all these these managers that
dinosaurs.
Well, yeah, but it's like, people hate
football
that.
And dinosaurs, isn't it?
But especially a certain little group on Everton Twitter that get very upset when you call people dinosaurs. But look at that league now. Teams that score loads of goals, teams that attack, teams that play exciting, dynamic football with young managers and young players. We've got players from our team that are going, I'll go down there. Yeah, okay. Tom Cannon's like, I'll have a bit of that. And there's no, with our team and the way we've structured, you talk about sliding doors moments, Dave. It's like, there was that moment when Carlo walked out And we know that Marcel Brands turned round to everyone and said, get Graham Potter. That's what he said. He said, get Graham Potter. And Mashiri went, no, I'm going for Rafa. Right? And you look at that team that we had under Carlo, and you look at Graham Potter and what he's done and what he can do, and the way he gets the best out of players, and the way he improves players, the way he uses youth, the way he develops a kind of a club model. We had a informed Dom, we had Richie, we had James Rodriguez, we had players coming through the youth academy like Isaac Price and Jared Bramthwaite and Nielsen. Yeah. We had loads of good young players coming through. We had Alex Iwobi, we had, you know what I mean? We had Luca Dean, we had, you know what I mean? It was like, actually, that's a really pretty decent. We had Ben Godfrey. And you're like, are you telling me that he couldn't have done a job there to make us now what we should be, which is a team with a model and a way of doing things? Because the way we've done things at the moment, we've gone out of our way to buy a team to support the way Dyche plays. That means that the entire director of football model, which is you create it all the way through the age groups, has just been set fire to. Because there's no way that Leighton Baines and are going to basically be playing midfield bypassing hoofball, are they? Right? So
Dan, I'm really sorry to interrupt, mate. I really am. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I would have loved Potter at the time. I actually thought myself at the time Potter would have been great. The point I'm making now is I'd actually feel sorry for Potter if he came in as Everton manager tomorrow, because I don't think he would do as well with the players now as he would have with the team you've just referenced there. So this is why I say, because Dave said about who could come in and make this team better. Are we asking could Potter come in and make this team better if we go down that route of relieving Dyche of his duties? And the point I'm saying is, Everton have got to that stage now. We've lost that culture. We've lost that identity that the players you mentioned. So it doesn't matter who comes in for me. For me now, we've gone past that point of return. Until we get fully stabilised again, and how we do that, I don't know. But until we fully stabilise again.
When you say that, what you say about stabilise, obviously it means a million words. Effectively, how would you consider what stabilise means? As in, able to spend money, because you look. We'll get into this bit in the second half of this. We've got potential owners who've signed up. Mashiri goes. Say they come in and we're able to spend a few quid in January, which I don't think will be the case anyway, given the potential nonsense that can happen to us via punishment, via financial side of it. Everton sustaining themselves and putting themselves in a viable footing. That to me, sadly, feels nigh on impossible. How do you do it? Because they come in and add all sorts of money. We're only allowed to spend, and obviously more people know this more than myself and you guys probably, but there are specific issues of us being able to actually spend even if we had it. So that's why I'm asking you what becomes what you've just said.
We're very limited. We've seen in the transfer window we're very limited to what we can do. Matt Fluss made a great point on the post-match on Sunday. He said there was a big Alex Iwobi-shaped hole in our Everton team on Friday. And he's absolutely right, because Iwobi would have played in that game. He might not have scored, he might not have created an assist, but the job and the role he had in that team would have meant that we'd have had some sort of outlet, which we didn't have on Sunday. Now, to go back to your question about what is stability, we cannot keep the likes of Iwobi. We have to, at this moment in time, sell Alex Iwobi to essentially balance the books. For me, Dave, stability now will be get your X, Y, and Z in, player-wise I'm talking about, that get us 36 to 40 points. Our saviour, the only way I can see Everton being effectively saved and to create this culture and identity that I keep referencing is if we are still a Premier League team by the time we move into that stadium, the new stadium. If we can get to that new stadium, then you can start thinking about revenue increase. Then you can start thinking about spending money. Then what I would do, and I'm no expert, this is just me as a fan talking how I see other football clubs have done it. and how I think we should do it, because the proof is in the pudding. It's worked for them. First of all, get your stable youth setup going. Get your youth system working. Don't sell your best youth players to balance the books like we have done, regardless of whether they're good enough. Let them know there's a clear pathway. The one bright spark, or one of the few bright sparks in the Everton team in this minute, is Brentford. The reason why he's been successful is because he's gone on loan and we've come back to him. And fair enough, we're not in a position to be able to sign centre-halves, but we've offered them, by accident possibly, a pathway into the first team. We should be doing that, not just with Brentford, with 5 other young players as well, saying to them, right, you go on loan, PSV, whoever, you come back, that's your pathway into the first team. That, first of all, stops us spending ridiculous money on plastic players that just keep us where we are in this perpetual cycle of fighting relegation. Then from then you build up, you build your way up. We do, to a degree, what Moyes did. You sign your 1 or 2 a season just to improve the squad, not going out and buying 4, 5, 6 or 7, what Chelsea are doing, and it just disrupts everything. Moyes' best times as an Everton manager, when he added an Arteta, then he brought in, going back further than that, he brought in Kale. Mid-season, he added Arteta. Then he added Pienaar the next season. Then he brought in Fellaini. Then I need the striker. There's your QB.
The irony with that one, just on your point there, the irony with that, with Moyes, was the one he spent the most money off at the time was James Beattie, who ironically ended up being one of his worst signings that he brought in. But it is doable, isn't it? Like you've just said,
it's doable. But look, Moyes had far more hits than misses, and I don't want this to be a Moyes revisionism show where where I'm, because I was a bigger critic as Moyes in the final days than anyone. But I say, look at what he's doing at West Ham, and I look at the way they've changed the ways, West Ham in particular, in the last few years, and got a European trophy out of it. That's what I would do. But Dave, to answer your question, I don't know. It is an impossible task. I think we've just got to stumble, find, scrap, claw, bite our way to staying in this league and get to that new stadium. And then that could be the point where we go, right, reset. This is where we now turn Everton into a competitive Premier League team that are not going to go through this suffering every season. That's the way I look at it. And as I say, mate, I'm no expert. I don't know. I'm just a fan who's looked at other teams do the business and want the same for Everton.
Dan, just on the points that Warren was making there about finding some sort of sustainability with the club and how they can secure that. I mean, there's no way of this not being a lot of hard work that they do in a positive manner, in a way that they're able to actually do it, because that line of this relative success in terms of getting back to an even keel with everything else, that requires everybody to do it properly, and you haven't got someone who's fucked up like they have done in such recent years. Otherwise, it just goes even further down the line, this, doesn't it?
The thing is, if you think of how long it's taken us to get to here, 7 years under Mashiri, and close to £1 billion, whatever figures you agree to believe or not. If you think it's taken that long and that much money to get this bad, it's probably going to take us a very considerable amount of, it's going to take us a considerable amount of time and a considerable amount of money to rectify the damage. And as Warren was saying, and I do agree to a point that the mess is so bad now. It's so bad that a lot of us feel like we're caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, because I get we can't keep sacking managers. I get the kind of all the stuff that, let's face it, as Everton fans, we are tired of saying. We are tired of saying, well, who would you get then? Or let's check, but we are now in a position where if he loses the next 3 or 4, we're in a position where we've got the derby coming up. We're nearly 10 games in. And we are in serious, serious trouble. But stability at the moment is so completely and utterly, it's a fantasy, because we don't even know who owns the football club. The board is interim and has been for months. The owner has gone. Our current owner couldn't care less. Couldn't care less. He's just trying to recoup, and we've seen it. The last 6 transfer windows, all he's been trying to do is get his money back. sell that player, sell that player, sell that player, sell that player, spend as little as possible, get me my money back. You know, whether it was to plow back into the stadium or whatever it was, whatever he thought he was doing. But the reality is, we're in a position right now of the ultimate footballing limbo. We have a team that aren't performing. We have a manager who probably doesn't know whether he's going to be here in 3 weeks or 3 days. We don't really know who's controlling the football club at the moment, and we haven't done for months and months and months. And even when we knew who was controlling the football club, they were complete and utter shambles. The people that are supposedly going to come in are as mysterious as the day is long. And they have 5 major share stakes in football. They have a minor, obviously, in Sevilla, but they have 5 major shareholdings in clubs all over the world. And currently, 4 of those 5 have at some point protested against them. So they have an 80% aggression rate, if you like. And we look at them and they talk a good game, but where's the money? And we get told today by Sean Dyche he's met them.
Coffee with them, he said, hasn't he? I've had a coffee with a couple of them.
You know, I mean, how long did they get bored with him saying the word challenge and alignment? And on the grass.
I'm fitness.
And on the grass. But so we are currently, and it's no surprise as a fan base, we are seeing even the most positive, even the most forward-thinking, even the most laissez-faire, joyful supporters being utterly ground down. Because if the results were okay on the pitch, the stuff behind it would be second thought. But because you know, it's the meme, isn't it? You know, we just would like a normal day, please, Evan. We'd just like a day where you're not in the news. We'd like a day where there hasn't been this happen or that, or some reporter's told someone this, or Simon Jordan's opened his mouth again, or someone else has told someone else this, or Matt Law's now telling everybody we can't pay the bills, or whatever. We would just like one day where it's, our striker scored 2 at the weekend, and it was lovely.
But we still lost 3-2.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And Alex Iwobi scored the winner. But we just would like normality, because at the moment we've been on a 3-year roller coaster of this thing where it never feels like it's ending. This doesn't feel like a new season. This just feels like the same thing that we've been living for 2 years. And we now, just when you think it's going to come to an end, it starts again. And there is no let up for the continual drama and the continual sort of ambiguity of where this club is going. And stability right now, I mean, you know, they said it in their statement. They want to do this deal by the end of the financial quarter, which is December. So we're still, even though they're there and they're talking to Sean Dyche and they're meeting Kevin Felwell and they're having a hobnob and all that vibe, this might not get done till December. We've got the regulatory stuff to happen. We've got our thing in October where they're either going to tell us we get a points deduction, a transfer ban, or they send a witch round to set fire to the place, whatever that is. But so we've got all these things that are still unresolved. The ownership's unresolved. The board it might as well be a load of cardboard cutouts of Morgan Schneidlin.
Yeah.
And that's why I had to sort of walk up. That's why I've had to sort of step away from the social media engagement with Twitter and Everton, because it's every day. And it's not just every day, it's every minute. And it's like, oh, this bad thing's happened. Oh, that's bad things happened. Oh, this is a mess. Oh, that's a mess. Oh, this is this. And you just go, my God, I just want to watch football and see players I like. And I don't care if we batter people. I don't care if we win trophies. I really don't. But at this point, I don't care. I just want to see a football team play football in blue and look like they care and score the odd goal and not have to worry about a investment banking group or a Iranian billionaire or a Russian oligarch you know what I mean? It's so tiring. It's just
It's not.
so
It's not
tiring.
Everton either, is it, Dan? That's the thing that we all sort of needed
No.
to get used to. I mean, when he came in 2016, and I referred to this quite a bit. He came in 2016, and we thought this is the change Everton need. This is what happened with Chelsea. This is what's happening at Spurs. They're taking that time now where it's time to invest in the team, whatever we like. And we all used to sit there saying, oh, go and get him, go and get him, go and get him. And even when the ones that came in, like Michael Keane and Davy Klaasendale, Schneiderlin, who you mentioned, they came in and were like, oh, it's great being able to sign these players. Lo and behold, we didn't have a clue what was going to come or what wasn't going to come, and it refers to that. Just before we go ahead there, just like Warren there, I want to plug myself. Just a little bit. I've done a piece this afternoon with James Corbett, and it was fantastic, and it was a real eye-opener to who we've got coming in to own this club. There are a couple of positive things that you never thought you were going to get, because everything we've seen so far has been purely negative, what we'd expect basically from any owner coming into the football club and the way it is, and who Moshiri had let us go to. These guys, what you mentioned there, Dan, about the other clubs that they're involved with and protests and stuff like that, that's there. But the other stuff they do, commercial wise, they own they own airplanes, they own various different things. James was basically saying the reason why they came over to Everton, who were in a financial mess, is because we're still a hell of a lot cheaper than doing everything in the USA. Any sort of franchise they want to get in the States would cost 5 times as much as what
Billions,
you get. Yeah. So that was essentially after I asked him the question, what do they get from joining us, who are in deep financial shit anyway, with all sorts of relegation things, regulation things coming to relegation as well, coming towards us from the Premier League, things none of us as fans can control. What do they get out of coming from us? Because we can't get loans off various different places that we've done in the past, that we've cut out trying to get. MSP have actually loaned us 100 million quid. That's the company that wanted to buy us. They can't buy us anymore. They still give us 100 million quid. So there's a lot of that, and he's going to be joining us quite a lot in the next few weeks. But add that on, and it's quite sad and very morbid to talk about this, but you add that on to the shit show that we've got right now. I actually think, and many people who listen to us will say, yeah, but that's not a surprise that I say this about our club. But I can't see how we stay in the Premier League this season, based on what we've mentioned about Dyche. Then you try to solve that by getting rid of him, and you get somebody else in. We spoke a bit about Graham Potter, who earth would have to shake for him to come in and actually get a tick out of what we've got and what he's done in his past. You can just, it doesn't work. It doesn't seem logical for me to come in and try and get this team shaped up like he did at Brighton. Lest we forget what happened with him at Chelsea as well. But by the way, would he want to? Would anyone you go for now, would they actually want to come into us?
He's turned down the job already, isn't he? He's turned down Lyon, I think, in France.
Yeah. He's happy. He's happy to sit there and let things just move out, see what happens, see what comes from him, because he's never going to be not offered jobs when other clubs are doing that.
Sorry, Dave. You mentioned Chelsea and Potter. I mean, he still had a 38% win rate there.
Yeah.
And you look at Poch now. You look at Poch now, right? And our fans would drag their gentlemen's agreements over broken glass for Poch. Yeah. But he's not exactly pulling up trees with them. They're a basket case. They're a FIFA 24 teenage wet dream team. They're just they've gone out and bought every player with 89 point averages.
Yeah.
And even he's struggling to get a tune out of them. So I get it. I don't want to sort of sound like the Graham Potter Appreciation Society. I've got that tattooed on my back. But along with my Everton managers, Mount Rushmore.
Rid of that. So, is Dyche going to be on it?
Oh, yeah. way down towards the arse crack. So, you kind of, I think, as you say, the issue is that it's just such a mess. It's just such a mess.
Well, what you were saying there, one about, and I was thinking about this while we had a cup of tea before we came back, where you can go in a direction that there is light at the end of the tunnel. But even that sounds like a miracle at the moment, doesn't it, for us to be able to go and do that? I suppose the other direction I want to go in, what we're talking about, how do we get something out of the squad that we've got now? As long as we're talking here about an individual player, we're saying he's crap. The one player that stood out for me, and I thought he was head and shoulders above everybody else, was Jared Brantwaite against Arsenal. I thought he was brilliant. Now, that if that doesn't tell you the message of what's going on in the rest of them, then I don't know what will. Because you've got somebody, like you said there, you've put him out on loan at a European club who do play European competitions. And then he's come back to a club, and this is where I really admire him and really think that he's not long for us, by the way. I could see big offers coming in for that lad, possibly as early as January. But you go and do that with somebody which is academy-wise, that actually looks effective. You mentioned it there about you need to keep players first and foremost. I think other people would suggest, well, if we've got decent players from the academy, they either come and play really well for us or you sell them for as much as you possibly can. He's gone in a different direction of us loaning him out, bringing him back in, and he looks like an absolute diamond. A lot of people saying he looks like John Stones. To me, what makes me feel really quite depressed towards looking at him is he's not going to stay at Everton long. Because if Everton in this situation, there's no way his agent, his family, anybody would say you stay at Everton because they do. You're getting a full-time match for them there. You're playing every week for Everton. He could easily go to a top 4 side and maybe doesn't start initially, but you could see him being consistently better than what he is for us, which is, as I've just said there, much better than anybody else that Everton have got. You know, he's next to Tarkovsky. I think he's been rubbish as well, to be honest. You've got fullbacks. You've got a 38-year-old Ashley Young who doesn't know how to cross a ball, but nonetheless he gets to cross the ball when we're on a corner. What do you look at from, if you're starting an 11 right now and go to Brentford on Saturday? What do you look there and think, we could do something with that? That looks half decent, because we certainly don't be going with the side and the sort of formation that Dyche put up against Arsenal. Even though it's a lesser side, in inverted commas, we're still travelling away from home as well, keep in mind.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think, look, whether we like it or not, we are going to play a certain way under this manager. And it does have its advantages playing the way he plays now and again. And the one advantage we do have is that we've actually got quite a big squad in terms of height. Now, I don't want us to... I'm a firm believer, by the way, I think there's a difference between direct and long ball. I think there's a difference in a long ball and a long pass.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, and just a very brief example of what I mean by that, is if you look at the way City play, their midfielders coming very narrow, when you've got the likes of Kyle Walker who'll ping the ball 40 yards to. That's a long pass. A long ball is what we did for 90 minutes on Sunday every time we got it. Now, I'm not for 1 minute saying Man City have got the luxury of having a Kyle Walker who can probably run an Olympic pace on their wings. So, you know, that's a difference for me. Some of the best moments we've had, and they have been few and far between, but some of the best moments we've had under Dyche is when we've played a direct style. And what I mean by that is getting it forward quickly into feet, into areas where the players can hold it up. And this is why I'd like to see a front two. And I think he's hinted at this today. I'd like to see a front two of Dom and Beto. Because if we can get it into their feet and play off them, and when we're in that final third, then we can do the little passes, then we can do the little triangles, then we can at least attempt something. Then we can at least attempt something where you maybe bring about a bit of confidence, throw a few crosses in, have a few shots from 20 yards out, build a bit of momentum at the away end at Brentford on Saturday, can get excited by it. It flicks off a Brentford defender, it goes for a corner. We might get a flick off someone's head, goes in the back of the net. These are all little gains that a Dyche team can get from the way he plays. And I think if we set up that way, we give ourselves in this league over another, how many games we've got left now? 33. We give ourselves a chance over a 33-game period but we need that requires energy, that requires commitment, that requires. I think a lot gets made about press, high press, closing down. A lot gets made about that as if it's some Pep Guardiola, or Jurgen Klopp. So that's always been a thing. That's always been a thing in football. You close people down quickly, you win the ball back, and you do what you can with it, and you stretch teams. And I do it in school with the kids. I'm very fortunate. I'm being able to coach the girls' teams at school at the minute, and it's brilliant. It's lovely to see. I'm going off on a bit of tangent here, but it's lovely to see the girls, how much popular it's getting. And the one basic thing I teach them, I say to them, when we've got the ball, I want us wide. I want the fullbacks wide. I want the wingers wide, and I want to get it to them quick. And when we haven't got the ball, I just want you to all tuck in, and I just want you to shuffle side to side. I'm not a UEFA B manager. I'm not a manager, coach, whatever you want to call it. I'm not that. These fellas in the Premier League have got all these badges and all this and all that. If I can apply the most basic, and look, it's a completely different level, I get that as well. But if I can apply the most basic, simple tactic that reaps a reward, I expect Everton to do the same in the basics. We should be able to do more for the Premier League team. Get your midfield tucked in when we haven't got the ball. Get your fullbacks tucked in. As soon as we get it, let's get it into feet quick. And then when we haven't got it, let's get into our shape. This is what Dice was supposedly trained for, getting us into a shape and making us difficult. What I've got a bit of sympathy for with them is we have been, for the best part, I'd say, of 4 years, 5 years now, absolutely dreadful in possession. We can't string 5 passes together.
Yeah.
The only time we did that was that anomaly at Brighton and the anomaly at Crystal Palace, what Sam referred to earlier under Lampard. I'd love these players to be told on Saturday, look, the world's against you. There's a crisis apparently at the club.
Yeah.
When you get that ball, have a bit of confidence because you're expected to lose anyway, lads. So have a bit of confidence on it. Be brave on the ball. Drive forward, travel, make something happen. I'm with you both when you said about Nana. If Nana left, he would probably flourish at another club. I am desperate to see that fella in an Everton shirt take the game by the scruff of the neck and go, right, I'm one of the best young players in Europe. I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you why I'm not going to be at this club in 2 years' time, because I'm going to be at a Man City or a Real Madrid or whoever, a Champions League club. I haven't seen him do that yet. And that's all I want to see from Everton this weekend. Yeah. Play direct, play 2 up front, see what we can get off that. And I think if we're able to have a bit of confidence on the ball, we could build a bit of momentum. I don't know, Dave. I think that's the only way we're going to be able to do it. I just thought we were too Sunday. Going back to Sunday very briefly, we just gave them too much respect. And yes, they're a good side, but where's the Everton team that's going to roll the sleeves up and go, I don't care how good you are? Because let's face it, the fans feel that way. We feel that way every time someone comes to Goodison. Like, I don't care who you are. You're at Everton. You're playing Everton. So that's the way I can see us maybe getting something out of it. But there's got to be some will. There's got to be some want there. And unfortunately, Dave, too many times down the years, we've had this same discussion about Everton players down in tools. So I've got a degree of sympathy with Dice for that. But it is now on him and the players to start being a bit braver, being a bit, what can we do to get these fans on side again?
Well, you mentioned there. Go on, mate, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's what I was just going to end up with that, just saying that's what I hope to see on Saturday.
There's something really funny and ironic that I'm going to tell you in a minute, because you may have seen this on the television if you've got it around you in the last 5 minutes or so, but I'll tell you about it in a sec. The thing I want to finish with actually is what you hinted at, Warren, and that is about Onana. I don't know, I've gone from one direction to the other with this lad, because I think he's got all the attributes. He's the type of player that you sign for your football club for a lot of money, like we did, 30-odd million quid. And you're thinking this, he's the type of thing like Dan was mentioning then. It's like, when your kids are playing FIFA or whatever and think, oh, he's world class, him. He's going to rip everybody apart when he comes on. And he's got those attributes to me. Look, he's not long for Everton, same as what I said about Brentford, in my opinion. A lot of people saying, oh yeah, we'll easily go and get double the amount of money for him. The other side of it for me is I'm frustrated, like you said, about him not taking games by the scruff of the neck, but also you talk about that word will, and I'm not sure he's got that. There's a lot of things I've seen from him, thinking, this is just pure hype that I've seen so far. And I don't know whether you agree with me. In fact, I'm suggesting that I think you probably both disagree to the extent I'm going with this, but I don't see him in that midfield that we want, a tight, compact midfield. He should be the absolute general in all of that. He should be head and shoulders above everybody else with the ball. Sometimes I see it with him, and it happened against Arsenal, where he's trying to do something that isn't there with the ball, and I'm thinking, well, okay, you've come to Everton with the pedigree that you're going to be playing for the side that is playing in the Champions League, Europa League at worst, and you're going to flourish because of who you've got around you. And I don't like looking at a player that you need to be a leader in a way, who can just say to them around them, look, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give you an example of what we need to do here, but you're going to have to come with me. Someone's going to have to come with me who's around me, Don't think you're getting that from Idrissa Gueye. I don't know, the Corey, I think he's a bit of an enigma at the moment, because when we've put him as a 10, there's and everyone's going to rave about that because of the goal against Bournemouth. That is going to be what a lot of people refer to automatically with the Corey, because he's a goal scorer in inverted commas. What goes in there, and it probably circles back to the start of the show, what you said there, Dan. James Garner is absolutely wasted because he came on in to be played in midfield, and almost immediately, I don't know who it was who he walked up to. I think it was Dan Juma he walked up to, and he basically said to him, am I in midfield? And you could see him point his fingers to the right wing, and you just seen the lad put his head down and run over to the right-hand side. And I'm like, we've signed him he's coming to us to flourish. You speak to any Forest fan, by the way, and this lad, they absolutely adored him. Man United fans gutted that they let go of him. We actually did a bit of decent business and got him for 15 million quid. Before I get your answer there, Dan, what's happened in the Europa League right now is Brighton, our best mates at Brighton. We've been banging on about Brighton. They are 1-0 down to AEK Athens, and the goal scorer is Jibril Sidibe. Now, if that isn't more Everton slapping you in the face, I'm not sure what is. Jibril Sidibe, just remember back to
one sock Sidibe?
What?
One sock Sidibe.
I'll go back to that fucking that video people have put out. It's your man, Stevie. What fucking move will you? All of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if that is not an indictment of what is going on at this football club, I'm not sure what is. But back to Onana there, Dan. What you said initially about him. People are saying we could go and get 60, 80 million for this fella. Everton aren't getting that while he's playing the way he is.
The thing is, it all depends where you want to kind of pitch this. People went mental when Beto scored against Doncaster, right? People poo-pooed Onana playing 2 games in the international break in his preferred position for a coach that understands the system and looking pretty decent.
Against Azerbaijan, he scored. He was awesome, wasn't he?
Yeah. So for me, I look at him and I think the major issue is in the role that we're asking him to do, you have to have a manager that understands that 3-man midfield better than our coach does, because I don't think he does. Because I know everybody was doing the McMahon meme stuff when it was Decore, Garner and Onana, but it's not balanced. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Idrissa Gueye isn't a 6. He's not an 8. He's not nothing. He's just a terrier that runs around who has a load of technical flaws, and he'll run around all day, but he doesn't do much apart from that. Onana is a bit lost in that because Decore is being asked to be that connection between the front and the middle. But if you want him to be the player we all think he could be, with the attributes he has, the strength, the dynamism, the stride, the ability to pick a pass, all the stuff he has, uniquely, unfortunately, not very good in the air. But if we want him to be that, unfortunately for us, we don't have the surrounding support that a player like that needs to flourish and command games and grab games. Because if you're meant to be that 6 that takes the ball off the back 4, which is what he technically is, it's what he does in Tedesco's side for Belgium, He takes the ball off the back four and blah, blah. Now, in Brentford, we have that kind of defender, don't we? We have a beautifully two-footed, cultured defender. In Tarkowski, we have more of a Jagielka brick wall kind of defender. But if your manager isn't necessarily a manager that wants you to do that, which Dyche definitely doesn't want Jared Brentford bringing the ball out and that connection, that sort of dynamic relationship between him and Onana, that's never going to gel because the manager isn't going to foster that. And then when you have another two people in the midfield, one of them's a sort of dynamic box-to-box player in Decore, and then you have a sort of running around headless chicken Ghana thing, the kid is always going to look a bit lost and a bit, he gets accused of hiding all the time. And that's probably because he doesn't really know what is going on. And then you talk about James Garner, and unfortunately for him, all his attributes that he has don't seem to be anything that our manager currently desires, because he's not a physically dynamic footballer. He's not a massive unit. He's not going to physically dominate people. And Dyche likes that. Dyche likes players that physically dominate space and physically dominate other players. He's not going to do that. He's also not going to be sort of box to box, up and down, up and down, up and down, clattering into tackles, winning the ball back and stuff. He's more of a sort of old-fashioned 8. He's more of a sort of get the ball off the 6, turn around, pick a pass, score a goal, ping a free kick. He's more of a sort of a almost like a throwback Arteta-y kind of thing, but without that little bit of niggle that Arteta had, where he liked to jump in every now and again. I'm not saying he's anywhere near Arteta, but the reality is that's the sort of thing that we want him doing, really. We want him showing that passing range and that vision and that kind of that education he's had at Man United and the education he had at Forest, where they absolutely adored him and he was involved in so many of their goals that got him up, and they wanted to keep him, didn't they? You know what I mean? They were desperate to keep him. But I think the midfield is such a massive... On paper, you look at it, even when Iwobi was there and stuff, and you look at it, you go, that's not terrible. That's not awful, is it? It's actually quite dynamic, and there's lots of character
better than
in
a
there.
relegation fighting Premier League side.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for some reason, whenever you watch that midfield, it's either being bypassed outside, as Warren was saying, down the wings and getting it forward, quick, or it doesn't really know what to do within itself. They stand on top of each other, but yet can't pass it to each other. There's no lead
about that. You think you're saying about that, mate? It makes Dyche look even worse, doesn't it? The fact that that's not being sorted out with players who've got the ability to be able to do so. If there is,
I just think there's more there. There's more in that midfield than we get. There's more. There's a lot more technical ability there, especially if you put Garner into it. And I know a lot of people are very reticent of putting Garner in because I think people believe that...
I'm not at all. I'm not reticent to put him in there.
Yeah, I mean, but you do hear people saying, oh, the way Everton fans big him up and the way Everton fans, you think of his unfortunate problem he has at the moment is he won the European under-21s playing at right back. And
he had a great game against Bournemouth on the right-hand side as well.
Yeah, and he was great because... And I don't want him to be one of these players that we lose due to versatility and who then finds that the position he wants to play in isn't available to him and we lose him as a talent. Because I think he has shown signs of being a really classy player. And I think if we ignore that for pure physicality, it's going to be a real shame because I think he can offer something. I just don't know how he offers something to a Sean Dyche team.
Yeah.
Because I just think Sean Dyche looks like it's going to be very wing-based, very down-the-channel based.
It's formulaic, isn't it? Very formulaic.
And I just worry that he just doesn't fit. He fits the Lampard model completely because you can see that Lampard wanted Gilmore as well, didn't he? And Bellwell was looking at Gilmore as well as and we looked at Gibbs White and we looked at players like that, these sort of all action kind of but very skillful, very tactically astute footballers. So he fits that vision of Everton that didn't work, and now he's at limbo at a vision of Everton which doesn't really involve him either.
Yeah.
And I think it's a real shame because I watched all the under-21s and I think Carsley's amazing. I think Carsley's got a real. I don't want him to sort of go anywhere else because I'd quite like Lee Carsley.
You know he's going to
favourite.
though. With the trajectory he's on, he's definitely going to. Only a couple of minutes left. One final word from you, mate.
Well, I just want to. I think Dan makes a very good point in regards to Garner about he can be that link for me. I hate using this phrase in a football sense because I think it's a bit cliche and a bit cringy, but I'm going to use it anyway. He could almost be like that quarterback where you give the ball to him from defence and he can pick a pass or little 5-yard pass here and there and get us up the pitch that way.
No, do you think that's one of the things that goes against him is his passing game? Because that's what's wrecked my head with him for a long, long time.
Garner.
Yeah. His passing.
But that's what we lack, Dave. That's what we sorely lack is someone who's got the ability to pass at the minute, 10 yards. I'd love to see him. We talked about Brentford. I'd love to see him in that little pocket, getting the ball off Brentford 10.
Paddy type.
Yeah, almost. Different player, but almost just a bit deep lying, a bit just sitting in there. Because I think he's got a tackle in him as well, Garner. So I think he can do that job. I'm not saying he's a defensive, combatant midfielder.
I think that's what he's been slotted as so many times, though.
But he's not. But he can sit in that deep lying role and receive a pass off the Brentford, whoever, one of the fullbacks, turn on the half turn and then pass it. And that's where you could maybe get to Corey and Nana, burst them forward a little bit more and drive them forward. So for me, I'd love to see him on that. And just to go back to Nana very quickly, I completely agree with Dan. If we give him the tools and play, give him what suits him best, we would have seen a better Nana. The only thing I'd say against that, and this is where I want him, we use that phrase again, by the scruff of the neck. Go back to 2009. We have a striker crisis at Everton, as you all know. Yakubu gets injured.
Yeah.
Sahar got injured. We had no strikers, and we're all going, "Oh, what's Everton going to do?" We're all shaking our heads because we can't sign anyone till January. We put Cahill and Fellaini up there. Cahill decides, right, I'm not a striker, but you know what? I'm gonna to the point where it was almost like he's a better striker than a midfielder than him. He took that position and went, I am going to show everyone that I can play here and do a good job. And that's what I want Nana to do more. I agreed with Dan 100%. He hasn't been given or hasn't been allowed to play a role that suits his ability best. But if I'm him and I want to play in the Champions League, I'm thinking, right, I've got to do something about this because that's what all the best players do. All the best players shine even when they're out of position. They don't always play as effective, granted, and I think that's what he's suffering from at the moment. He's not as effective because we're not giving him the tools to succeed. But I want to see him with a little bit of the Cahill edge about him, where he goes, right, well, this isn't working for me, but I'm going to make it work. And I just haven't seen enough of that from him for me. But yeah, the midfield is an enigma to finish off on that. I just think going forward now, what we need to do is we need to stumble. I mentioned it earlier. We need to stumble across some sort of formula now that will help us get points and win games. I do believe we have got the quality to win games. I do believe we have got the players there, and I do believe that there are worse teams than us when we're on it in this league. And that's what we're going to rely on. I have to rely on this year that there's 3 worse teams than us, rather than us being better than 4, 5, 6 teams. We're going to have to rely on teams being worse than us. Matt Jones always says, I'm a positive Evertonian on this podcast. I'm going to finish with a positive. If we can stumble across that formula of a decent, cohesive midfield, get the likes of Jack Harrison in, who we get to see at this moment in time, get Dwight McNeil fully fit, who was very effective in the second half of last season, get Dom into a position where he can play more alongside Beto, or get Beto settled into the team. We'll win games, we'll get points on the board. it just feels very low at the minute, and rightly so. But we have got the ability there to get points. So I'll leave you with that as a positive, Dave, with 1 minute left on the Zoom call, and you come up with it up, mate.
Do you know what the funny thing about that is? I hope people have stayed listening to us to this point so they can hear your positive war cry. And it was like Phil Neville, that wasn't it? Phil Neville war cry. We were looking at back in the day, maybe. Anyway, lads, thanks so much. Thanks to everyone for listening. Brentford to come, post match to come, and to make everyone feel a little bit better. There's a mailbag tomorrow as well with Les. See if you can get us on a laugh and a smile. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks to Warren. Thanks to Dan, and we'll speak to you soon.